Welcome back to the Talk Nats podcast. My name is Kevin Nibley, and we are sponsored by Old DC Apparel. Head on over to shopoldDC.com. Some of the coolest, most original DC fan shirts and hats you'll find. Also running a charity promotion for the 2026 Washington Post Layoff Fund. 100% of all of our charity shirts will go to that fund for the laid off Post employees. You can subscribe to us, as always, on YouTube at TalkNats Podcast. That's also our handle on X. And the audio version is available on every major podcast outlets. So, yeah, Washington Nationals won, World Baseball Classic Champions 0. I guess the Nats were the only team that could beat Venezuela. That's kind of crazy. A wild tournament. Mark DeRosa, not sure if he will be asked back. Not knowing the rules before the U.S. was potentially eliminated after their loss to Italy, and maybe could have made some different bullpen decisions in that final game. Not sure if I'll have him back. But yeah, in terms of the Nats, in terms of our show, we're going to take a little bit of a break from ex-players and local celebrities to get into the spring, what we've seen so far, what we've learned, what we can look forward to. And we're really excited to be joined by Mr. Sam Sallick, who is the brains behind the Federal Baseball blog. He was down in West Palm the last few weeks. We went on for a little bit, so I'm going to break this into two parts. So without any further ado, here is Federal Baseball's own Sam Sallick. So right now we are joined by Sam Sallick, the brains behind Federal Baseball. Sam, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this week.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be on.
Cool. Now, I understand you were down in West Palm Beach, with the team at camp. What was your biggest takeaway, and what were your impressions from the first Taboni Butera spring training?
Yeah, I was down there just this last week. I got some really cool access and stuff. Overall, I didn't really get a ton of access. It's kind of the Rizzo kind of spring training. I'm kind of new on the block, so I don't really have a comparison point, but things seem to be going pretty well. I thought the vibes were good. I think I got to talk to a few of the pitchers. They really seem to be kind of really like honed in on like these mechanical tweaks they're going to make and stuff. But overall, I thought the vibe was good. I think we're headed in a good spot to start the season.
Cool. Yeah. Now, a lot's been made. You mentioned mechanical adjustments and things like that. A lot's been made about the new tech and this kind of analytics forward regime of Taboni and Butera. I mean, did you pick up on that? What were some of the things you saw that maybe weren't there before?
I mean, obviously, there's kind of, I saw the kind of traject art machines, I think, going around, and I saw, there's a bunch of stuff down there, but I really think like a lot of it's just the mindset and like they're thinking about it a little bit more, where they're like trying to throw more pitch types or like stuff like that.
No, cool. Now, I just saw, I guess, the current news that Harry Ford was sent down to AAA. How do you see his trajectory this year? Do you think it's something where they start him off down there, but he's up pretty early in May or June for that extra year of control? Or, do you think he's going to be the Nats catcher for most of 26 or in a timeshare with Ruiz?
I think at least he'll be in a timeshare with Ruiz. I don't know, whenever the service time clock stops. And I kind of wanted Ford to be the starting catcher just because I wanted some new blood, but I understand what they're doing with the service time and kind of wanting him to work on his defense. And his spring was fine, but he didn't exactly knock the doors down either. So I get what they're doing, but I'm kind of bummed out. I kind of wrote about that in my last story.
Cool. Now, speaking of not burning the doors down, Dylan Cruz, hasn't really had the best spring and really hasn't had the best career so far with the Nats. I mean, what do you make of that? Do you think he's going to go north with the team, or would it be better if he went further north to Rochester?
Yeah, I think that'll make the team, but I think it wouldn't be the worst idea ever to have him in Rochester. I think there's a lot of like rhetoric about this being a fresh start, and that's kind of almost a double-edged sword where it's like some guys have the opportunity, but also like there's going to be people coming to take your job if you don't produce. And Cruz just hasn't produced in the big leagues. He hasn't produced this spring, even at the upper levels of the minors. If you look at his stats, they're good, but they're not what you'd expect from a number 2 overall pick, who's one of the most dominant college players the last like 10 to 15 years. It's
Yeah.
just, you know,
Does it matter? Do you think it matters that Taboni wasn't the guy who drafted him number 2 overall? Is that kind of put more pressure on Cruz that it
yeah, I think,
wasn't?
yeah, I think it does. Like obviously you're not going to have the same kind of ties to a guy. It's not the guy that you drafted. Obviously, like I'm sure when they talked to ownership to Boney, I'm sure he was like a big part of it was I think I can fix Dylan Cruz, but even still, it's not your guy, and there's going to be other guys that are your guys or other guys that are producing. So Cruz has got to pick it up. Even if he
uh,
makes the team, like I don't think the leash will be particularly long.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an interesting. I mean, would you play him in center over Jacob Young, right, and keep Lyle and Wood in the corners, or how do you see the outfield shaking
I
out?
think I think they're going to do a lot of mixing and matching. I think some days it'll be Cruz in center, some days it'll be in right. Some they've even tried him out in left this spring. I think like sometimes like Lyle and Wood, I think will kind of go back and forth with DH spots along
Yeah,
with some other guys too. I think there's going to be a lot more versatility just around the lineup.
cool. Now, I guess shifting to the rotation, what was your take on Cade Cavalli being named the opening day starter? Do you feel like he deserves that? And how important is that, I guess,
Yeah,
for a young player?
yeah, I think like after the Gore trade, he was kind of the obvious candidate. He showed a lot of flashes this at the back half of last season. I think the new regime, I've talked to Blake Butera about him. He's really high on him. I think the whole organization is really high on his stuff. And as he gets further back from that Tommy John, which had a lot of bumps along the way, I think that he'll just continue to grow and grow. And I think this is a massive year for him. I think this is kind of like going to be a breakout year. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen probably now. And I think for him personally, I think it's a big deal. Obviously, like I was kind of talking to him a little bit, and he was like noted just kind of how bumpy that Tommy John recovery is and how much he went through, and now to be back all the way back, I think it's a cool moment for him.
No, definitely. No, I mean, speaking of the rotation, the Gore trade obviously was
Yeah,
interesting. But I guess I want your take. So for a normal fan, I mean, you figure they trade Gore, that kind of signals a
yeah.
punt for the upcoming season, but then they go and they sign Littell. What's your take on that? I mean, how did you feel about the Littell signing, and did it change anything for you in terms of like, oh, well, like they might actually be trying to do a little bit better this year than we initially thought after they traded Gore?
Yeah, I thought the Littell trade was, or the Littell move was a really nice pickup. That definitely, I think they were probably interested for a while, and then just the price came to a point where they're comfortable with it. I think, like, I don't know, I don't think we should be like thinking about the playoffs or anything, but I think that
Yeah, yeah.
that like there's a chance that this is a more competitive ball club and can kind of maybe I think the best case scenario would probably be do something like what the Marlins did last year, where they're really scrappy, kind of like sort of in it down the stretch,
Mm,
and
mm,
we're playing really big spoiler. But I think Littell could be a part of that. He could also, if they're out of it, they could also have him as a trade chip. He got
mm.
decent return at the deadline for the Rays last year, so he could probably do that again. And yeah, I just like the pickup. And as for the Gore trade, I think we all kind of knew it was going to happen this offseason. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I thought it was an interesting return. It was definitely quantity over quality, but there's just like more. All the guys are at least pretty interesting, and I think they're hoping that one or two of them really pops over this next 12 months.
Yeah, no, with the Gore trade, no one seems to. I mean, obviously, like Fiend was the
Yeah,
headliner and all that, but with Rosario, the pitcher, who had that like took a whole year off kind of
Yeah.
before having the Tommy John. I'm just curious. I've yet to really get like an answer from anyone on this. Maybe you have some more insights, but do you know what happened there? Why he waited a whole year before the
I
TJ
don't
or
know. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm still not 100% sure if he's got it. I think based on the MLB pipeline write up I read, I think he got it, but I don't know. I think there's something with some sort of other injury that prevented him from getting it, but it is all very mysterious. I'd
Okay.
have to ask. I didn't ask down there, but at some point I'll definitely ask about that, see what's going on there.
Cool. Now, I guess sticking to the rotation, how do you see it shaking out? Is it going to be? I mean, right now, right, we're looking at obviously Cavalli and Griffin and Mikolas and Littell. I got that last spot. Do you feel like it's Jake Irvin's?
I think after yesterday, I think Jake Irvin should be feeling pretty good about himself. He's looked good this spring. The velocity is not back to 2024 levels, but he's really mixing and matching his pitches well, which I've really liked to see. Like he's become like a true six pitch guy. Last year he threw six pitches, but like the vast majority of them were like fastball, sinker, or curveball. Now he's really mixing in the cutter, the slider, the changeup, and it's all just kind of they're all working well off of each other. I've always liked his mound presence. Just having more weapons, I think, could help him out.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, and in terms of Miles Mikolas, like how committed do you feel like they are? I think it was about $2 million they gave to him.
Yeah,
Obviously, his numbers last year weren't the best. I mean, do you feel like he has a decent leash, or if it's like a couple months in and he's got an
I
ERA
think
over
he's got a
5?
yeah. I think he's got a couple. I think it's probably about the latter. He's got a couple months of runway, but they've got a decent amount of people behind him. They'll want Josiah Gray. We haven't
Yeah,
mentioned him. They'll want him in the big leagues at some point. They have other guys. They'll have Luis Perales. Maybe if he comes on strong, he could be part of the mix. Ken Waldichuk's thrown the ball pretty well this spring. They've got Mitchell Parker down there in the mix. And Brad Lord, obviously, he's probably going to be in the bullpen, but maybe they want to see what he's got. They've got a lot of like these 4 or 5
yeah,
like depth starter types this organization right now.
yeah. No, Gray. Excuse me, Gray's an interesting one. Obviously, he was an all-star. I want to say 2023, and then he started opening day in Cincinnati. I think I was there actually, and got bombed, and then we figured out something was wrong with his arm and PJ and all that. But yeah. I mean, do you? What I'm interested in is guys like Josiah or yeah, Parker. Obviously, I think they're already
Yeah.
talking about
And
going
then
to the
there's also
bullpen.
TJ Hers as well, who'll come back
Yes,
in season 2.
I guess what I do you think they keep those guys stretched out in starter roles, or at a certain point this year, do you feel like maybe they start trying some of those guys in the pen if they're not starter spots for them?
Yeah, I think that with some of those fringe guys like Gray and also another guy I'd want to shout out is Riley Cornelio. I think they're trying to start them out as starters so they have the ability to do that. But I think at some point though, if they have like a settled 5,
Yeah,
they'll want to try some of those guys in the bullpen. I'd be interested to see what Gray would look like in the bullpen. I hadn't really thought of that before, but maybe his stuff would tick up in shorter bursts. Would see what happens there. But I think for now
yeah.
they want him to be starters, especially Gray. I think.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, and Brad Lord. I mean, obviously they kind of jerked him around last year
Mhm.
between the pen and the rotation. I mean, where do you see him fitting best ultimately?
I think that that swingman role is probably his best home. I think he can start, but I think there's just some limitations that probably make him better in the bullpen. That I think his stuff is just generally a little crisper and like 1 to 2 inning spurts, and he's pretty fastball reliant. He's got his slider and changeup are okay. I know he's been working on that changeup this spring, but I think that fastball is pretty reliant on that. So I think he's probably best going like 2 3 inning spurts as a swing man who can also pitch high leverage and start games. It's just like a Swiss Army knife. I think that's
Yeah.
honestly his best role.
Yeah, I guess speaking of the roster, I mean, it's starting to come into shape, but
Mm-hmm.
you see, what's your biggest kind of unresolved roster question left? I mean, is there anyone, do you think there'll be any surprises
Um,
before the team comes north in terms of who comes and who leaves?
Yeah, the big thing they really haven't resolved yet. I mean, the bullpen, they haven't really cut anyone from that. I could see a bunch of different options they choose. And then honestly, like the right side of the infield at first base and second base, I think that's just going to be like mixing and matching between a few
Yeah.
guys. I think like Luis Garcia Jr. will bounce back and forth between first and second. I think Nassim Nunez will get more playing time than he has in the past. Jose Tena is out of options, so I think he'll be on the team. Andres Chaparro, I think, will play against left-handed pitching. And then obviously there's the outfield. There's always a chance of the Dylan Cruz getting sent down. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. But
Yeah.
even without that, they've still got a lot of guys out there that they have to choose from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we hadn't really gotten into first base, but that obviously is one position
Mm-hmm.
where it's
Yeah, I was
certainly
kind of
not.
surprised they didn't do anything for first base.
Yeah, no, so yeah, I mean, you kind of just brought it up, and it seems like the way they're playing the lineup, especially in some spring training games, you can tell like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
they're actually putting out a lineup that feels like an opening day
Yeah,
lineup
I
or
think
something like
tonight's
that.
one of those examples where, other than Jacob Young at two, because they want him to get more at bats, or it's a lot of the guys they have on opening day.
So do you think it's going to be like you just mentioned? Because it seems like they're going that way, like a platoon at first, where Garcia plays first against right-handed pitching, and then maybe against lefties. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you said, it's
yeah,
Chaparro. I mean, I know they have a couple other guys. I know there are a few others in the mix, but yeah, how do you see? Is that how you see first base
yeah. I
going this
just think
season?
there are going to be some mixing and matching. Like some days they'll want like Garcia at second, or some days they'll want him at first, and then maybe he'll be at DH for Andres Chaparro one day. I still think there's a lot of unresolved things. When I talked to Blake Butera, he said just because first base starts one way on opening day doesn't mean that's what we're going to see the whole 162. So I think we're going to see a
Yeah.
lot of different, see what works.
All right, that was our episode. Lots of thanks to Sam. We'll be back with him next Friday. At that point, we will have one game to analyze opening day, and we'll talk about what to look forward to for the rest of the season. Some interesting points there. I mean, the first base situation is an interesting one, and you know, let's give some credit to the Nats staff, at least in the spring, for making the pitching side look pretty good. None of us had that on our bingo card when we looked at the roster heading into West Palm, leading the Grapefruit League in ERA to this point. That's pretty wild. So that'll do it. Please visit talknats.com. Please go to shopoldec.com. They're going to be having a lot of new stuff dropping around opening day, so check that out. And as always, thanks for listening. And until next time, go Nats.